Now is the time to access capital. You want to do it before things, if God forbid we get out of control, like go get money in your bank now.
In today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with Joe Camberato, the CEO and founder of National Business Capital. We're going to dive into what's going on right now in the economy with the banking system. And we also are going to be talking about how small business owners like yourself can get your hands on money. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Courtney and Michael Weaver, and we have a special guest with us today, Joe Camberato. Joe, how are you?
Doing great. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
We're excited. We're going to talk all about money.
Yeah, we're super pumped because you are the CEO and founder of National Business Capital. And what better than to be talking to a banker with our current situation going on in our economy?
Well, I'm definitely not a banker, and that's why I started my business, because it's so challenging working with banks. But I definitely am in the mix of what's going on. And National Business Capital was started back in 2007. I started out of my spare bedroom right before going into the 2008-09 recession. So it was a crazy time. And, things crashed. And so I've seen this movie before, fast forward today, we had a lot of growth after this. So there's definitely going to be a lot of opportunity out there right now, but super important that you understand like how to access capital so you can take advantage of those opportunities. Fast forward today, National Business Capital has helped secure over $2 billion in funding for entrepreneurs all across the country in all different types of industries. We've done over 27,000 transactions, and we've become this debt provider platform, this capital connector, where we have over 75 lenders in one place. We do everything from SBA loans to term loans to lines of credit, equipment financing, inventory funding, and really every type of business lending product. And we work with some of the nation's leading SBA lenders and also non-bank lenders. And we have a diverse portfolio of lenders, which in a market like this is extremely helpful and useful, because certain lenders are going to tighten right now. Some will stay focused and open up. Some will stop lending. So this is a really wild time.
All right, I thank you for correcting me, because you're like, I'm not a damn banker, dude. Like, I'm a person that works with.
Don't call me a banker.
No, man, that's great. So let's get into like what's currently going on in the economy. Like, why are the feds jumping in, shutting banks down? Like, what's going on?
Well, I don't think people realize how much of a bullet we dodged this past weekend. And we're making this video. It's March 15th of 2023. This past weekend was a crazy weekend. I was nonstop on phone calls, in group chats with CEOs, entrepreneurs all around the country. And a lot of those were tied to Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. And, it's amazing because fear and panic can, almost create meltdowns and downturns and recessions. And that's what started to happen on Saturday. And I was really getting prepared for a mini meltdown. And if shout out to the government, I'm not looking to get political here or anything like that, but if they didn't step in and make this announcement to backstop everyone's deposits and what was going on and let everyone know that they're still going to be able to access their money, we would have seen multiple probably regional banks collapse. So thank God the government stepped in when they did. But I was in, group chats where owners that ran like good companies, profitable companies, had their money in Silicon Valley Bank or Signature and couldn't access it and didn't know what was going to happen on Monday and literally didn't know if they were going to be able to access payroll. It was pretty crazy. And what happened really didn't have to happen. And, what happened in, 08-09 was all this toxic mortgage debt that was happening. And then you had this financial meltdown. So Lehman Brothers go out, and then you had people like Washington Mutual, if you can remember that, like people were going and pulling money out. But that took like a week or two for everyone to I think it was like weeks where, everyone running to pull their money out. Like it was over of a matter of weeks. What happened last week with Silicon Valley Bank was, they invested, they had all this money coming in from venture capital, over the last few years. They were really a provider to all these tech and innovative, companies that a lot of banks don't really know how to work with. So they were like the go-to spot, and they were really providing and did a really great job servicing the whole tech Silicon Valley innovative community. And a lot of those, that community raising money, so a lot of money was coming in. They had so much money that they decided to park it a year or two ago into 10-year treasury bonds and earning 1.82%. At the time, it was actually really good. So fast forward to today, now you can get 4.5% on those bonds, right? So on those, government treasuries. So what happened is those bonds are now, now not worth as much. Now, if they did nothing, it doesn't matter that they're worth less. Like if you wanted to sell them now, then you're going to take a hit, right? But if they just, were able to hold them, they would have earned their percentage all the way out over the next 10 years. What happened is a lot of money started to flow out of the bank. A lot of venture capital, started to take money out. And then there was an announcement from in the VC community, from some really followed people, Silicon Valley Bank had to sell some of those bonds in order to have enough cash and liquidity, because there's ratios that you have to keep in your bank. And if people are pulling money out, you have to have those ratios in check. So they took a big loss, I think it was 1.6 or 1.8 billion, by selling that stuff. So when they announced it, I think they could have, they definitely could have announced it in a better way and given confidence. But people got concerned and said, hey, we don't like this. There was an announcement made in the VC community to pull your money, and then that spread like wildfire. Back in 08, 09, we didn't have these cell phones, and you weren't able to pull your phone out and transfer money in 3 seconds. So in 48 hours, like everyone went to pull their money out. It was a race to get your money out. And so that's why they went insolvent in literally 48 hours, and they had to come in and shut the bank down. So what's crazy about this is that in these situations, and what everyone's fearful about is like, oh my God, are they going to be right? Are they going to go out of business? Oh, let me go run and pull my money. By actually pulling out your money, you actually help create exactly what you don't want to happen. So it's kind of like this whole oxymoron type of thing, but it with real ramifications. And you had all these owners, entrepreneurs that had great businesses, and it wasn't even like they were in these risky bets and risky toxic assets at Silicon Valley Bank. If everyone ran to the bank right now, it doesn't know what bank you are. If everyone ran to pull every dollar out, every bank would have this issue. So I don't think people realize that if they didn't step in and ensure that you're going to be able to get your money, and everything past $250,000 that's insured, this I think would have spread like wildfire, and I think would have created we would have had some real serious issues on our hands. So it was definitely a wild weekend for sure.
What you're talking, you're talking about a traditional bank run. They ran on the bank,
Yep.
Which fear sets in. All right, if somebody's like, "Oh, bank's shutting down, I'm not going to get my money," the fear sets in. But
it set in for me. I immediately started looking at you, and Joe, that would be my question to you. Not to interrupt you, but as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, I'm watching this happen, and I start putting myself in that situation. So when this is going on, what advice do you have? Just keep it, just to have kahunas and weather the storm?
It's hard, I'd hate to say to go run and take it, because then that's fueling a bank run, which I wouldn't want to do, But the game is, if you're the last guy standing, then you could take a major loss, right? At this point, to give everyone confidence, the government stepped in. I don't think that you need to worry about this. If some other bank comes out that is making really bad lending bets and in a bunch of toxic assets, that's a little bit of a different story. Like there's other concerns there that you may legitimately need to worry about. But at this point, most banks, that's not happening. So some advice and things that you can do. One is, which a lot of people don't even realize this. Well, the first main thing is what really needs to be addressed, and it seems like this is coming up, and I'm definitely going to be talking about it, is having your money, especially as a business owner, insured up to $250. It's outdated. Like with inflation, with everything else, with what it takes to run a company, like most decent companies, not all companies, but most decent companies that have a lot of employees have over $250,000 in the bank, right? They might have a few million. And so you should be able to be insured to at least $1 million, maybe $2 million, maybe even $5 million. To be honest, maybe you have to pay a premium. I'd pay that premium to know that my money's safe and to be able to sleep at night. But that's the root of the issue here. No one would have ran to take their money out if they knew it was safe and insured. So there's something has to be addressed there. In 2008, when all this craziness happened, they went from $100K to $250. Well, $250 is not worth the same anymore in today's world that it was in 2008. And it's not going to be worth the same in another 5 or 10 years. So that needs to be addressed. But what can you do as a business owner? Well, it's $250, up to $250 in every account. So you can spread your money around in multiple accounts and you're fine, right? I was getting my haircut the other day and the receptionist, nice woman, she was like, my husband's going to go pull his money out. And I'm like, well, what bank do you bank with? She was with one of the big 4 banks. I'm like, you don't have anything to worry with, but I don't mean to ask personal questions, but is it over 250? She's like, no. Well, then you're fine. So a lot of people just don't know these things. And listen, if you don't do this stuff every day, I get it, right? So, I told her that she's fine. But if you want to, you can put your money in multiple accounts. Another thing that's interesting that, again, a lot of people don't know, usually if you have your money in a money market account at the bank, it's actually off the bank's balance sheet, and it's usually in one of the bigger banks that's paying that type of interest. So if and this is something you have to check, and you got to check with each bank. It could be different. So if those people at Silicon Valley had a lot of their money in money market accounts, they probably didn't have to be concerned with this. Another thing which most people don't know about, most bankers don't even know about, because I was at Chase the other day and I asked them, and the person didn't really know about this, which is just interesting, is there's something called a sweep account. And what that'll do is it was actually designed to sweep, like anything over 250, it'll sweep your account and it'll put it into, you could set it at whatever amount you want, but you could set it anything over 250, it'll sweep it and it'll put it into money market accounts. So that's another thing that you could have that's happening, where you could still log in, you could see your money, have access to your money, it's not locked up. That's something really worth talking about with your bank, especially if you're at a regional bank right now. If you're at a big 4 bank, if we have to worry about this at a big 4, then someone said to me,
we're all in trouble.
Then all you need to worry about is gold, guns, and tuna, right? Because the world's ending, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And cans of tuna fish. So a buddy of mine said it to me the other day, and I was dying laughing, but he's right? So if you're at a regional bank, I would be doing these things to protect yourself. You can keep your money in a big bank now and keep a little bit there and have the relationship, but the other thing is these regional banks really are servicing the small and medium-sized business community. White glove service, old school service, things that you just don't get from the bigger banks. And so what I'm curious is with Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank, they were really serving a real serious need. And who is going to fill those gaps? There are other banks out there that can, but I'm curious of who's going to really fill those gaps. And is there going to be confidence with the regional banks? And if they don't give confidence around the deposits and your money being insured, it also really puts these regional banks at a huge disadvantage to the big banks. And I don't think that's fair. And there's a real need for the hands-on, for the lending that they're providing to the small business community. And small business can be, what you might consider a pretty decent-sized business. So, there's a big need for it, and it would be a shame to put them at a disadvantage because you're just not getting it at a big bank. Company, once you start breaking $50 to $100 million, you start to get the attention of the bigger banks. But, anything under 50, 25 million today, it's not really looked at as a big business. And you really got to work with a regional bank if you want any type of service, and especially a smaller company doing million, 5 million, 10 million, which in today's world is just it's not big business.
No, this is good. This is great.
So I want to jump in, and thank you for clarifying that, because I tend to there's so much information out there. It's like, okay, what do I consume and what do I reject of like, okay, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to go down this whole spiral. But you brought up a need. You said there's a need for like the lending and small business. And I know that's something that you do at your company. So I want to talk about that a little bit and how you're kind of filling the gap with what you're doing for small business owners.
It's a great question. And, listen, the whole reason why I founded the company was because I saw how challenging it was for business owners to access capital at a bank. And let's be real here, most small to medium-sized companies, the companies that we service, the companies that we work with do $1 million to $30 million in revenue typically. We work with companies that do more than that in revenue. We work with companies that do less than that in revenue. But I created the company because even prior to all this, it was still challenging getting lending from a bank. And in this environment, it's going to be even more challenging. So this is exactly what we're designed for and what we're here to help and service. And we've been very busy, especially the last few days. We've been busy leading up to this. People need access to capital. Banks were tightening prior to this and kind of going through and living through the 08-09 recession. That's when I started my company in 07, rode right through that, and then scaled as the economy came back. I've been saying to the team for the last few months that expect this year that we're going to have this like rolling recession, these ups and downs and weird things happening. You can't, one is all this free money came in from COVID, right? And it extended the life of a lot of businesses, and maybe some of those businesses, maybe wouldn't have been here even if COVID didn't happen, but everyone got a pass through this, right? And I'm not knocking businesses, but some win and some lose. It's part of the game in business. Some build great businesses, some don't. And the ones who don't, I don't think deserve to stay in business because you have a responsibility as an owner. Banks were tightening prior to this, but I've said, I think we're going to see these sporadic, weird things. Rates are coming up. Some things have to break. Access to free money tightens up, stops. There's going to be companies that didn't figure it out at this point that are going to have challenges. So banks, we were already watching tighten. We were getting very busy because of this. And I think we'll continue to be extremely busy. And, right now, my team and I are very focused in helping small business to medium-sized companies, access the capital that they need. And we take on some risk with some of the deals, that we do. So we do lend on certain deals. And then we work with a number of lenders that, depending on your industry type, depending on where you're located in the country, depending on what your need is, what you're looking to accomplish, we have lenders that do SBA loans, term loans, lines of credit, will finance equipment specifically, inventory, use your receivables to do revolving lines. So depending on your need, we're great with quarterbacking where your deal should be placed. And more importantly, we help explain to you, do an upfront conversation, understand where you're at, what's going on in the business. We get a very simple digital application. You can securely upload all your financial docs to us, and then we review it with you. And through our technology, and also with a very talented, smart team that gets lending guidelines and also business, we'll be able to tell you, hey, we think that you're going to qualify for this, and it probably should be this much at this rate, and this is what the terms will look like. And if that makes sense, then we'll move to get you into underwriting. What's really important, if lender A turns you down, we submit you to lender B and C, and we can do that with a click of a button. We can submit you to 5 lenders in literally seconds, and our systems are directly connected to a lot of our lenders' underwriting systems through technology. So we click a button, we can push all your information right to the lender, and they can spit us back an approval very quickly, sometimes in minutes and hours, or days, depending on the size of the deal. And we really take the frustration, and more importantly, that we're like a time-saving machine. So when you come to us, you can immediately know what's reality, what you're most likely qualify for, how long it's going to take, what docs you need. And that's really the service that we provide. And, owners, really appreciate that. I mean, the time it takes to apply at one lender, it can be overwhelming. And,
oh my gosh.
and most lenders aren't set up with it, so they're not set up for it, so.
I mean, I love that you're doing this for small businesses, because in our situation, when we started, we were young, like our young to mid 20s. We didn't have much credit established, so we couldn't get a loan. We went to all of our local banks. We couldn't get approved for a loan. They wouldn't even approve us for a line of credit. And so we had $5,000 to our name to start our business with, and we made it work. But having access to money, I think, and you have to have access to money before you need the money. Here's the thing. And so what does the process, obviously our network is a lot of insurance professionals, brokers. I would love for you to talk about just what that process, not just from a high level standpoint, like if they contacted you, what does that process look like? What are you looking for? Like, how fast do you typically get people funded money?
Yeah. I mean, we, under 250,000, 1 to 2 business days, it can be very quickly. And obviously, we'll work as fast as you would like. But if someone came to us, had their financial docs together, complete our digital app, securely upload everything in an instant, we can get it submitted and have approvals, the same day, $250,000 and under. So it is fast, but we've spent a lot of time and money to build out those processes, the technology, the lender relationships. This is 15 years of investment and experience. It's really easy. I mean, we need, our digital application. You can upload 6 months of your bank statements or do a secure bank connection. But, just to be clear, it also depends on the lending product, right? So if it's an SBA loan, then we're going to need 3 years of your business and personal tax returns and financials. If it's equipment financing, we're going to need the invoice of the equipment you're purchasing. If it's working capital, we'll look at your last 6 months of bank statements. If you go above 250,000, we'll need to look at your bank statement and your last year most recent financial statement. Profit, loss, and balance sheet. So all depending on the amount of dollars and then obviously the loan program will make up where maybe we need a extra piece of information, whatever. But if you're looking for $1 million, I mean, these are things that you should have, together.
For sure.
Yeah.
We help explain it. We'll work with you. We can work with your CFO, as well too. But it's all the usual norm, basic stuff. The difference is by having a simple conversation, by asking, the right questions, understanding your business, what type of business you are, what you're doing in revenue, what you're using the money for, and then, also just you send it to us, we can review it. We can tell you, in usually a quick conversation, and definitely by reviewing your financial info, your recent bank statements, profit, loss, and balance sheet, we could tell you, hey, this is what's going to probably make sense. So instead of going to a bank or maybe another lender and submitting all your info into a black box and then just wait 30 days to get a no, we don't work that way, and we don't get paid unless we get your deal funded. So we're very incentivized to be accurate in what we're telling you, and we want to deliver to you. We want to deliver the best deal possible. If your success in getting funded is our success, right? So we're all incentivized and on the same team here. We really work for you, and we just help navigate through underwriting and lending, which is, it's a daunting thing. I talk about it all the time. Most entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, they're great at whatever it is that their business does, and as they should be. But if you're not in if your world's not financing and lending, and you didn't come from that world, you just don't know this stuff. And why would you? If you own a restaurant, you're great at cooking. If you have a construction contracting company, you're great at building whatever it is that you build. If you're in transportation, you get logistics. If you're in e-com, you know how to move traffic through a website and sell products. And but if you aren't in financing, you just don't know. And the other thing too, which is such a valuable thing that we bring to the table, we process thousands of business loan applications every single month. So, we see in real time which lenders are doing what, which lenders are actually lending, which lenders adjusted their guidelines. Lenders are, in this environment, guidelines, I feel like almost have been changing daily. So when you come to us, we're like, transportation, lender A, B, and C, they've paused in transportation, or you have to have 20 plus trucks right now. So lender D, E, and F we're going to go to. That in itself is valuable. That's 6 lenders, right? Imagine if we said, yeah, here's the lenders, you go apply at each one. By the time you got to the 6th one, then you get an approval. By the time you got to the 2nd or 3rd, you're burnt out. So that's the value that we bring to the table, and we're really staying current, with guidelines. And there's not an easy way to do it. We're having meetings here internally. We update our tech constantly, and then we also have a program guide where we're constantly making updates to. Whatever the guidelines are today, it's outdated in 3 to 6 months. It might even be outdated next month. And not for nothing, and what happened this weekend, the guidelines last week might not be what they are this week. So it's always an ever-changing environment, which is challenging. For us, it keeps us on our toes and makes it exciting.
No, for sure. So when I put myself into a situation, and thank you for all that information. So I heard you say 3 years for an SBA. So I don't know much about this stuff. So what is someone, so in your light, you can help people in all 50 states. You help all business owners. So, but for someone that's just getting started, all right, so just getting started, year one, they don't have 3 years of returns or anything like that. What are you, what's that conversation even look like? What is even available to someone like that?
That's a really good question. So just to be clear to an SBA, you can apply for an SBA loan in your business with 2 years in business, but anything longer than that, so 3 years plus if you've been in business, 5 years, 10 years, then you would need at least 3 years of tax returns and financials. But we work with customers all the time that are 6 to 12 months in business. At that point, we're really focused on what's going on. We're really focused on your cash flow. We want to see that you're doing at least $250,000 in revenue. We're on pace to do that, right? So there are some working capital products that are available that are focused purely on cash flow. We can do some equipment lending because the equipment is tied to collateral. Lines of credit are a little bit complicated, but sometimes we can get those done depending on what your receivables look like. So there are lenders and products out there. Again, if you went to your bank with 1 year time in business, I mean, it's most likely a pretty hard no. They might give you a big credit card or something like that if you got great credit, but there are lenders out there that do that, and we work with customers all the time that are year and a half, 2 years in business, and you just have to know, you just have to go to the right lender and you have to collect the right information.
I think that's so valuable because I think back, and I think this is where you were headed too. When we think about starting our insurance agency and our goal, if we would have had more capital up front, we could have grown so much faster and it would have been 100%. So much easier. But we didn't know. We thought, okay, I'm bootstrapping everything that I have. And you can do that to an extent. But if you have access to capital, you have access to people, you have access to scale, and it just happens so much faster. Like if I could go back and tell myself that, like, have this conversation, Joe, where were you 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Like I needed this conversation.
You're making it really easy. Like you're making it efficient. You're making it simple. You're making it convenient. And that's the biggest thing I'm hearing here. Like you're the go-to, you're the money master. You tell me your situation and I'm going to try to figure something out for you. And if I can't, I'm going to give you advice.
That's exactly right. And that's, I mean, you just like kind of nailed our mission. Like make it easy, make it fast, make it efficient, provide all the access, do it all in one place, and do the right thing with integrity. Like that's like our company's core values. And you know, when I founded in 2007, nothing like this existed. You know, there were lenders out there. There were private lenders. I came from the consumer mortgage world, and I happen to have a lot of self-employed customers, and I saw how challenging it was for them to access capital for their businesses. I couldn't. They were like, tell me, I'd go to my bank. They'd say no. I didn't get it. They're all great companies, and there's this whole world of non-bank lending out there that exists. And I uncovered it, and I was like, really like fascinated, and I literally got someone locally on Long Island where I am money from one of those non-bank lenders, and I watched, and they got the bank. I brought it to the bank. They laughed at me. They're like, "We'll never fund a restaurant." And they had a great business, wedding catering hall, and long story short, got them capital need, watched them grow his business, and I was like, wow, like if they didn't find that lender, like that would have never happened. And watch them hire more employees and also provide value to the community. So that really is what hooked me. And I said, well, what if I brought all these lenders in one place, made it really easy to apply in one simple place, and I'll do the work of shopping around so you can run your business. And that's really how it started. It was really deal by deal in the beginning, and constantly reinvesting into tech, processes, systems, people. Here we are today, rock and rolling, and we fund hundreds of deals per month now. So, it's pretty cool. And I've been doing this 15 years. I feel like we're just getting started.
No, so I'm super curious, and this is more of a me question than anything. So you're in the world. I don't get to talk to people that are dealing with interest rates every day, dealing with loans. What are you, and I know you're not a fortune teller, but what are you forecasting over the next 12 to 24 months? Like interest rates, are they going to stay about the same, go up? I don't foresee them going down. I mean, what are you thinking? What are you seeing in your world?
It's a good question right now. I mean, and everyone's been talking about it, the past few days. Like, what's the Fed going to do now with what just happened? It feels like, and it seems like they're probably going to still carry on because of inflation. Probably another rate hike. It might be, maybe they might consider less now. I think if things get way out of hand, they are going to have to, bring it back down. It's a little unclear of what that timing is. Eventually the rates will come back down, and is that next year? Is it the year after? Do rates kind of stay where they are for a little bit? This is a little bit, unclear, and I think really depending on what happens over these next few weeks, because if something weird just happened, was that like an individual thing with, these, two regional banks? Or are we going to start to see this with others? And I think if we start to see other issues, that's going to change what really happens. So I think these next few weeks are going to be very telling. I do think from a business owner, entrepreneur perspective, now is the time to access capital. You want to do it before things, if God forbid we get out of control, like go get money in your bank now. Go put money to work. Now is the time to be applying, taking what you can get. I just had a call with someone we have approved for over $2 million, and I was like, hey, it was a personal friend referred them over to us, and I'm not trying to create fear and panic here, but you have like a $2+ million approval on the table, and you've got use for it in your business. This is not the time to drag your feet. This is not the environment. But you in your business, you can't be driven by fear. Watching the news too much is not good. Sometimes at all.
Who watches the news, man? That's just
you need to know what's going on. But it's like what's important is because sometimes owners in these situations are like, oh my God, do I do nothing? You got to keep growing. Like business doesn't stop, and there's always opportunity out there. And sometimes in these environments, there's actually more opportunity. So this is the time that you shouldn't be having a party. You should be focused and focusing on those opportunities. And what is very different in right now from like 08, 09, it was like all housing, anything tied to housing got their asses kicked. In this environment, like what we're seeing is, talking about housing. All right, 2 contractors in the same state, in the same town. One guy's doing amazing because he's managed well through this. One guy still can't figure it out because he just hasn't been able to manage good through this. So you've got 2 people in the same industry in the same town. One's killing it, one's not, right? You've got some people in transportation doing great. Like they have more work than they know what to do with. They can't hire enough people. You have some that aren't good negotiators or aren't great with hiring, that are really getting beat up from some of the bigger companies that use them. So it's very like spotty, even within the same industries. And really, I think what it comes down to, especially with talking with owners, you're like, oh, that guy gets it. He's focused on the opportunity. He's been focused this whole time, not letting fear drive him, has been able to shift gears, change, be innovative, make it happen, get out of his comfort zone, do things that maybe he never would have thought he had to do, but did them to make it work. And he's been able to navigate through, and his business has come back, maybe even doing better now, right? And then you have some people that still just get caught up in fear. And you've got to be smart and make good decisions, but fear has no place in driving your life or your business. And that's what I talk about all the time. So this is the time to not let fear drive you. Get focused. And why your competition's getting caught up in fear is where you can start to run circles around your competition.
I completely agree. Have caution, but not fear. Like,
correct.
Look at okay, where's the opportunity? And I appreciate you having a real honest conversation, because as a business owner, looking at money and finances and what's happening around you, you can get caught up in that. So I appreciate you just sharing, like, focus on what you can control and look at the opportunity at hand, because there's always another door that you're not looking at. Like, there's always something that you're like, okay, I need to go here.
100%. And mindset in business really is everything. And it is probably one of the most important things in, an environment that we're in right now. And some get that, some don't take that as serious, but it's not this like hokey thing. Like, it's real. You need to keep your mindset in check. And it's equally as important as the financing piece right now. Those are like the 2 most important things: money and mindset.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, you have a lot of great things going on. So how would someone that's listening right now follow you, connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
Get some money from you.
Nice. It's all about money. If you want to get some money, connect with my team. You can connect with my team you can go right to nationalbusinesscapital.com. You can easily apply on the website. Just give us a call. We're happy to have a conversation with you. You can follow me at Grow by Joe. Definitely check out my YouTube channel. I put a ton of videos out there, talk about things like this, and follow me on LinkedIn. And and also I have my Grow Show. It's called The Grow Show. It's my podcast where I'm talking to awesome entrepreneurs, making it happen, growing their businesses, talking about all the things they did to grow, but also the challenges they had to get through. So really good stuff there. And I was just sharing with you guys before the call, I'm launching something called Fund Tank. And we're filming the first episode tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Got 4 entrepreneurs, awesome entrepreneurs are going to show up. They're going to pitch their business, and I'm going to help them get some funding for their business. We're going to pick a winner. I'll help that winner get some funding, and I'm going to pay for the first $50,000 in interest.
That is awesome.
I'm so fired up about that. That's going to be so much fun.
That's awesome, man. Show me the money, baby. Let's go. So no, Joe, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic.
My pleasure, guys. Keep growing and keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. So for all of you listening, as always, thank you so much for your time. It is the most important and valuable asset that we all have. We appreciate you spending time with us. If you enjoyed the episode today, please give us a 5-star review. Tell people about us. Other than that, make it great.